Sometimes in our lives we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. And please swallow your pride if I have things you need to borrow, for no one can fill those of your needs that you had let show. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. You just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. Just might have a problem that you'd understand. We all need somebody to lean on. And if there is a load you have to bear that you can carry, and right up the road I'll share your load. If you just call me, lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'd understand. We all need somebody to lean on. And lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on.
Welcome, friends, gathered in the sanctuary on Zoom and later on our YouTube channel. It is so good to be together. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Franklin, to the Smoky Mountains of Western North Carolina and Northeast Georgia, and the ancestral land of the Cherokee people. We are a lay-led congregation of progressive minds and caring connections. My name is Mary Teslow, and I'm delighted to be your service leader this morning. We extend a warm welcome to those who may be visiting us today for the first time or returning after a while. We are so glad you're with us and look forward to getting to know you better. There will be an opportunity to introduce yourself later in the service, and you can sign up for the newsletter and the guest book in the foyer. As we gather each Sunday, we take a moment to greet each other in Zoom and here in the sanctuary, affectionately the Zoomies and the Roomies. Roomies, please rise in body or spirit for our wave hello and standing for our gathering song. So turn to your right, Roomies, and wave to the camera above the door. And our Zoomies will be waving back to us. Yay, we're so glad you're here, all together in one community. Thank you. And And now our gathering song with Miss Jude. Yay, thank you.
Spirit of Life, it's 123 in your book if you're visiting. We do the sign language because we're trying to learn different styles to be a welcoming community. So just follow along as you can.
We appreciate our Sunday service team, Warren, Becky, Ben, Edgar, and Penny on Zoom. We appreciate also Karen for our hospitality and Jill as our greeter. Fellowship announcements. Do we have any announcements on Zoom? None there. Do we have any announcements here in the sanctuary? Yay.
Y'all see me way too much, but I have to announce this. We've gotten more and more services up on YouTube, if you'd like to go back and look at some of those services. Thanks to Claire Davis over here, who's catching up some of our backlog and is making a strong commitment to provide each weekly service by the next following week, and she's doing a fabulous job.
Yay. We appreciate you, Claire. Absolutely. Also, this is General Assembly Week, starting on Wednesday, going through Sunday. Robbie and I will be attending virtually downstairs in Celebration Hall, and we encourage folks who might want to join us, please speak to one of us, whether it's for workshops or workshops on demand, where we can make arrangements for you for time, or whether it's actually sessions that are at a particular time. We would be so thrilled to have you join us. We encourage folks to keep us healthy by using the supplies in the foyer or joining us on Zoom if you're not feeling well. A reminder that we request anyone testing positive or significantly exposed to contact our president, Jude Lowry. You've seen her, yay. Yay, yay, yay. Please be sure to keep up to date by checking the UU View, our website, and the bulletin board downstairs in Celebration Hall. Our fellowship is a light for liberal religion in the mountains that values diversity and the richness it brings to our community. Our celebration of diversity is reflected in the variety of our Sunday services. In addition to different topics, our service sequence and length sometimes varies. We hope today's service enriches your journey of discovery. And we are so delighted today to be able to welcome back Reverend Charlotte Arsenault. Reverend Charlotte will be the new settled senior minister at the First UU in Nashville, F-U-U-N. How good is that? Yay! Beginning in August 2025. I'm so lucky that we've gotten her back with us before then. She most recently served as lead minister at the Georgia Mountains Unitarian Universalist Church in Dahlonega, where she's been for the last 12 years. Prior to that, she interned at Emerson UU in Marietta, her hometown. She received her Master's of Divinity from Harvard and undergraduate degree in philosophy and religion at Queen's University. She was ordained at Georgia Mountains and is in full fellowship with the UUA. And our chalice lighting. Today we light our chalice in honor of the resilience that flows through generations. From ancestors who persisted through hardship, to children who dream with fierce hope, to each of us carrying forward love, justice, and courage. May this flame remind us we are not alone. We are part of a great lineage of resilience, and together we rise. And now welcome Reverend Charlotte with our opening words.
Good morning, friends. Good morning. It's so nice to be here with you all virtually or in person again. It's been a little while, a few years maybe since I've been up here. But it is especially good to be up in the mountains with you all today after an eventful day yesterday. I don't know how your day was spent. My day was spent walking around with a sign and meeting my neighbors. So together we gather to reaffirm our shared values and ground ourselves in hope, meaning, and community. So I'm going to ask that we begin our time together with a litany of welcome that I've written and that I traditionally open my worship services with. If you are here with us for the first time or the 100th time, you are welcome here. If you believe in many gods, a god or goddess, no gods, or you are open to the mystery, you are welcome here. If you are gay, straight, bisexual, transgender, cisgender, non-binary, or still trying to wrap your mind around what each of those means, you are welcome here. If you are covered in tattoos or are a blank canvas saving up for that very first I Heart Mom tattoo, you are welcome here. If you are a citizen or undocumented, searching for work or retired, and whatever the shade of your skin, you are welcome here, and I'm going to guess you would be protected here. If you shout amen after each song or sentence, would anyone like to give me one? Amen. Ooh. All right, there we go. Or if you prefer to turn off your camera and blend into the background, you are welcome here. If you come here sober, addicted, or somewhere in between, you are welcome here. If you enter these doors in unrelenting grief, or if your cup is overflowing with joy, you are welcome here. Your whole self, all that you were, all that you are, and all that you long to be is welcome here, and you are just where you should be this morning, in a space full of compassionate, thoughtful, justice-seeking, radical Unitarian Universalists ready to welcome you home. Please stand in body or in spirit and join in singing our opening hymn, We Are. Oh, sorry. They're up here.
We can stand. We can do whatever we want.
Okay, I don't know what we do here.
We're good.
For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage, fathers of time, daughters of dust, and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth, keepers of faith, makers of peace, and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage, fathers of time, daughters of dust, and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We we are the Spirit of God. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are one.
Please be seated. And now Reverend Charlotte with her sermon, Generations of Resilience.
I'm going to open with a reading today, which comes from John O'Donohue. It's entitled For Failure, from his book, To Bless the Space Between Us. The will of color loves how light spreads through its diffusions, making textures subtle, clothing a landscape in concealment, for color to keep its mysteries hidden from the unready eye. But the light that comes after rain is always fierce and clear, and illuminates the face of everything through the transparency of rain. Despite the initial darkening, this is the light that failure casts, beholden no more to the promise of what dream and work would bring. It shows where roots have withered and where the source has gone dry. The light of failure has no mercy on the affections of the heart. It emerges from beyond the personal, a wiry, forthright light that likes to see crevices open in the shell of a controlled life. Though cruel now, it serves a deeper kindness, wise to the larger call of growth. It invites us to humility and the painstaking work of acceptance, so that one day we may look back in recognition and appreciation at the disappointment we now endure. I recently came across an interview with Dr. Anna Lamke, a professor at Stanford University and a research psychiatrist specializing in addiction. You may be familiar with her work, as Dr. Lamke wrote the incredible book Dopamine Nation. Not sure if you've heard of that, which dives deeply into her research regarding that feel-good chemical or motivational chemical our brains release, dopamine, and the pain-pleasure balance that our bodies need to experience in order to regulate it. Dopamine is a naturally occurring chemical in our bodies, but because it makes us feel good, we tend to seek it out, experiences or people that release it, which when we're not careful can create an addiction to it, an addiction to a chemical in our own brain. Social media, as an example, is notorious for cultivating an online experience that optimizes the steady and frequent release of dopamine so that you keep coming back again and again for it. As a way to combat this dopamine addiction, Dr. Lamke's findings indicate that regular exposure to discomfort would help to balance our dopamine releases and make the withdrawal from it less uncomfortable. Through this intentional practice of dopamine balancing, we're actually able to create resiliency. Yes, resiliency isn't something that you're born with. It's something that you can cultivate, no matter your age, gender, race, or level of physical ability that you may have. Parents can cultivate this pain-pleasure balance in their children, whether it's insisting they play outside on a hot day, ensuring they persist with a complicated and difficult task, problem solving, mandating unpleasant chores, or signing them up for a sport that pushes their physical limits. A parent can build up resiliency and therefore build up helpful and healthy coping methods for their children to use when either their emotional or physical limits are tested in the future. Of course, the same principles apply to us adults. Hate doing the dishes because it doesn't release any dopamine? Get your sponge ready. Dislike sitting quietly and reading? Better find your reading glasses. All in the name of building resiliency. When I heard this interview with Dr. Lamke, it struck me as shockingly obvious and also tragically under-discussed. Obvious because once I considered it, much like you, I assume, I realized I already knew it. If you're anything like me, your parents told you 100 times that taking that trash out to the curb was character building, and dang it, they were right. But also because my many years of serving as a hospital chaplain centered around helping to establish or lift up a sense of resiliency, both in the staff and in our patients that we served. We do this often by having them reflect on moments in their lives which have been difficult to navigate, moments of heartbreak, loss, pain, suffering, and inviting them to remember what it was that helped them through that time. The goal being, of course, to remind them that they already have within them what they need to make it through this trial. Resiliency is crucial given the trajectory of our lives and experiences as humans is so unpredictable. Throughout the course of our lives, we will experience many triumphs and defeats, periods of great strides forward, and undoubtedly setbacks. And not just individually, but communally. Our faith's progressive values experienced a major setback during last year's election. So much of the good we've worked to propagate in this world, the advances for ourselves and for those that we love, were hard-won and now seem to be hanging in the balance. In the face of this setback, it feels difficult to find commonality with our neighbors, difficult to have faith in the heart of our fellow Americans. And my goodness, it is challenging to look beyond the setbacks and see that arc of the moral universe still bending further towards justice, like our Unitarian ancestor Theodore Parker and later MLK spoke of. I think this is because we, who are finite creatures, whose lives seem so short in the grand scheme of things, tend to focus too myopically. It's important to place this time or any other time of hardship or setback into the larger historical context so that we can truly see the bend of that arc. So I'm inviting us on what we can call a far-sighted journey to do just that. Unitarians are long-suffering in terms of setbacks to our theological doctrines and beliefs. Beginning during the Council of Nicaea in 325, when Arius took what we would now consider Unitarian beliefs before the Roman Emperor Constantine. Arguments over the nature of Jesus and his relationship to God were spirited, to say the least, and resulted in St. Nicholas, yes, that St. Nicholas, Santa Claus himself, slapping Arius across the face. As history would reveal, Trinitarianism and not Unitarianism was embraced by Constantine, and the Nicene Creed was written by the council declaring it so. For his refusal to conform, Arius was excommunicated. His works were burned. His followers declared enemies of Christianity, and he was exiled. A major setback by anyone's standards, right? If Arius were to only focus on the successful propagation of his beliefs during his own lifetime, he would have believed himself a failure. And yet, here we sit today, speaking his name aloud from a Unitarian pulpit nearly 1,700 years later. Arius bent that arc. Traveling along Arius's road, Michael Servetus, a brilliant physician, mathematician, scientist, astronomer, philosopher, and master in many more fields during the 16th century, who has the time, folks? Who has the time to do all of that? Put forth his Unitarian beliefs in a series of works, beginning most famously with On the Errors of the Trinity. In his work, he shared his belief that Trinitarianism had become a sort of tritheism, or the worship of three gods instead of one. On top of this inconvenient analysis, he was accused of being gay, of reading and disseminating information about the Quran against the wishes of the Catholic bishops. Servetus also believed that baptizing infants was, in his words, ironically, of the devil. When he refused to back down from his beliefs, John Calvin and Martin Luther themselves insisted on his public execution. He was burned at the stake on a pyre of his own books. Dramatic. In the wake of Servetus's death, however, Calvin received major backlash. Historic Unitarian figures like Giorgio Biandrata began widely disseminating his works, sometimes even under their own names, and his beliefs became wildly influential. Servetus is considered to be the father of the Unitarian movement in Poland and Transylvania, where much of our formal theological history begins in earnest. It's because of this spread to Transylvania that the Socinian movement in England began, planting the seed of what would become the English Unitarian movement that would spread to the United States. Michael Servetus, huge setback. And yet again, here we sit 500 years later, Unitarians who sometimes speak of the Quran, embrace diverse sexualities, and do not baptize infants. Servetus bent the arc. Let's skip forward a few hundred years to the next example, the suffrage movement in the US. Both Unitarians and Universalist women had a profound role in what would become the 19th Amendment to our Constitution. In 1790, Universalist Judith Sargent Murray founded the first Universalist church in America and leveraged her great intellect to convince men of the God-ordained rights of women. She wrote what is understood to be the first essay on women's rights published in America, entitled On the Equality of the Sexes. Unitarians Margaret Fuller, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, and Susan B. Anthony followed her and remained perhaps the most influential women participating in the suffrage movement. Fuller wrote Woman in the 19th Century, and the literature made its way to New York and eventually to the women who 3 years later called the first Women's Rights Convention in Seneca Falls. One of the major setbacks during the suffrage movement was the arrest of Susan B. Anthony after illegally casting her vote in 1872 presidential election. In her federal case, she unsuccessfully argued that the 14th Amendment qualified her vote as a citizen. Anthony died before the 19th Amendment passed, giving some, but not all, women the right to vote. Neither Judith Sargent Murray, Margaret Fuller, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, or Susan B. Anthony ever saw the passage of the 19th Amendment. Their work remained unfinished at the time of their death, but they bent the arc, and they trusted that those who came after would keep bending it. It's in part because of their resiliency that I and women in general can vote in the United States. Moving forward through history and picking up where the fight for true access and freedom for voting left off, we enter the civil rights era. The stated objectives of the movement was to abolish, legalize racial segregation, discrimination, and disenfranchisement in the United States. There were many, many setbacks to this vision. And while most aspects of the objectives have been met, others remain a work in progress to this day. The vast majority of Unitarian Universalists during the 50s and 60s believed in supporting this movement, including the Reverend James Reeb, a UU minister out of Boston. Reverend Reeb so believed in equal rights, he resigned from his fancy pulpit and moved his family to a poverty-stricken, majority Black neighborhood where his children could attend integrated public schools, and he could work with the American Friends Service Committee on furthering the cause of civil rights through community building and improving the conditions in his own backyard. When Dr. King called for religious leaders from all over the nation to join him in the peaceful, nonviolent March for Freedom in Selma, Reeb was on a plane to Alabama that night. Most of you know by now that Reverend Reeb was killed by white supremacists in Selma after eating at an integrated diner prior to the final successful march from Selma to Montgomery. Dr. King gave the eulogy at Reverend Reeb's funeral and said, James Reeb symbolizes the forces of goodwill in our nation. He demonstrated the conscience of the nation. He was an attorney for the defense of the innocent in the court of world opinion. He was a witness to the truth that men of different races and classes might live, eat, and work together as brothers. Despite the terrible suffering and deaths of many Black activists, it was the death of Reverend Reeb, a white minister, that finally prompted President Johnson to sign the Voting Rights Act of '65. Reeb never saw the bill signed, nor did Jimmy Lee Jackson, Viola Liuzzo, Reverend George Lee, or Herbert Lee. They never saw the fruition of the work they so believed in. But the movement was successful, and their work, their lives were not in vain because the movement was resilient. The movement trusted that sacrifices and defeats would happen. Maria Reeb was asked whether or not she felt the cause was worth her husband's life, and she answered, "I can only answer for Jim that any consequences that might occur did merit this." Reverend Reeb bent the arc. There have been many more modern examples of arc bending and movement resiliency from outside of our faith. Nelson Mandela's fight against apartheid, in which he was imprisoned for 27 years, or the assassination of Harvey Milk during his quest for gay rights. And of course, the Black Lives Matter movement, which continues to suffer setbacks and successes to this day. In each of these examples, we see the balance of defeat and success as the arc bends further. And we end where we began, in a place where it could be easy to feel, especially over the last few months, that our work was in vain. In a time of frustration and despair, of fear and anxiety, or even perhaps apathy. Our recent political setbacks seem to endanger each of the movements that preceded it: freedom of disparate thought, of religious belief outside of the mainstream, freedom of women, of gender nonconforming folks, of communities of color to determine their own future, freedom to love and marry whomever we choose. It feels overwhelming. I can imagine that Arius, Michael Servetus, Margaret Fuller, James Reeb, Nelson Mandela, Harvey Milk, and many others had similar moments when they wondered, what was it all for? Whether it was worth it to continue on in their efforts. The difference is that when they faced a setback, when the movement they supported experienced defeat, they or those around them chose to view it as an opportunity to regroup, re-strategize, move forward in a different direction, or put their heads down and persevere. They chose to hope, and dare I say, have faith. Faith that though they could not see the outcome, that those behind them would pick up where they left off, and that success would be just around the corner. Their movements were successful because they were resilient, because they knew it was about something bigger than themselves. They grounded themselves with the knowledge that they fought for a worthy cause, though that fight would likely not end in their lifetime. In one of his final sermons, Reverend Reeb said, "No one can take a vacation from the struggle for justice." I add that justice is a moving target, so we will be working towards it in one way or another for the rest of our lives, regardless of whether or not we see success in our individual visions of it or not. Once justice was achieved during the women's suffrage movement, the call to justice was heard in the wars, in gay rights, in economic rights. There's always more to keep fighting for. And so we must create a resilient heart and mind capable of seeing our efforts in a wider lens that pushes far past our own lifetimes and those of our children and grandchildren. Not all fights for justice will look like a march or a trial or a book outlining our belief system or a dramatic martyrdom or an existential crossroads. Sometimes they will look like taking out the trash on a really cold day, doing the 2-day-old dishes you've been putting off. The fight for justice begins with waking up each morning and choosing to cultivate resilience in a world where it's easier to choose the dopamine rush. Doing it because we need you for something bigger than anything we can see right now. Because that arc of the moral universe is still being bent, and you and I, standing on the backs of giants, we are called to be the benders of that arc in this lifetime. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be.
Reverend Charlotte, we are so grateful for your message. It is a blessing to us. Among our inspiring role models of generational resilience are African Americans. This Thursday, June 19th, is Juneteenth, or Freedom Day. Juneteenth celebrates the date in 1865 when enslaved people in Galveston, Texas, learned of their freedom, marking the practical end of slavery in the United States. It's a day to acknowledge the end of slavery, honor the struggle for freedom, and the multitude of contributions by Black Americans, and reflect on the ongoing impact of racial injustice. Robbie Greenberg has a poem to share.
Thank you, Mary. So as I was looking for a good poem to read on Juneteenth, I realized that so many of them were to be spoken by a person of color. And not to take that away from someone else, I went on, I believe it's called ChatGPT, and I asked for a poem written to be read by an ally. And this is what it came up with very quickly. Freedom's voice. On this day, a bell does ring, a song of freedom loud we sing, a story old yet told anew, of struggle fought and justice due. I stand in awe not to claim, but to honor, to know the name of lives that bled, of hearts that yearned for a world where freedom's earned. I may not walk the path you've known, but in this moment, you're not alone. With each step forward, I'll stand beside in the march for truth, in the fight for pride. For Juneteenth is more than just a date. It is the strength of voices, the fight for fate. And I, a witness to the pain, promise to carry it through joy and strain. In unity, we rise and see the power of your history. With open hearts, we'll break the chains and honor freedom free of stains.
We are grateful for all the diverse gifts of time, talent, and treasure that are given by so many in love and in hope. And we appreciate the flowers this morning from Jude and Jill. Very lovely. Yes.
One's in the back, too.
Yes, both. Wonderful. Please give generously to the life and work of this beloved community. And now please join me in our dedication of our gifts. Gifts given in love and hope continue a cycle of love and hope. So may it be. Thank you for your support. All financial gifts are appreciated. There are offering plate at the sanctuary entry where there are also stamped addressed envelopes to mail. Donations are welcome electronically, including PayPal link on our website and in the UU View. There's also a celebration jar right here and a basket for coffee donations downstairs in Celebration Hall. As we prepare for joys and concerns, know that they'll be edited out before being posted online. A pebble cast into a pond causes ripples that spread in all directions. Now we open our hearts to one another. If you carry a joy, a celebration, a piece of good news, let us rejoice with you. If you carry a concern, a grief, a worry, or a pain, let us share the burden. If you'd like, you're welcome to share a brief special joy or concern, and I'll drop a pebble in the water. We'll begin with those on Zoom, and we'll follow with those in the sanctuary and invite you to line up by the piano if you have something to share. A last final pebble as we remember those who have spoken, those who have been named, and those we hold in silence in our hearts. We now invite you into a minute of silence. You can choose to meditate, pray, reflect on something you heard here today, or simply sit silently in community with others, and I'll bring you back with the chimes. Our closing song now is Resilient by Rising Appalachia.
I am resilient. I trust the movement. I negate the chaos, uplift the negative. I'll show up at the table again and again and again. I'll close my mouth and learn to listen. Whoa, whoa, oh, oh. 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 These times are poignant. The winds have shifted. It's all we can do to stay uplifted. Pipelines through backyards, wolves howling out fronts. Yeah, I got my crew, but truth is what I want. Realigned and on point, power to the peaceful, prayers to the waters, women at the center, all vessels open to give and receive. Let's see the system brought down to its knees. Whoa, whoa, oh, oh. Whoa, whoa, oh, oh. Whoa, whoa, oh, oh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Whoa, whoa, oh, oh. Whoa, whoa, oh, oh. Whoa, whoa, oh, oh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. yours. Put us all together, make a mighty I am resilient, I trust the movement, I negate the chaos, uplift the negative. I'll show up at the table again and again and again. I'll close my mouth and learn to listen.
For our closing words today, the great Nelson Mandela once said, "Do not judge me by my successes. Judge me by how many times I fell down and got back up again." At this time in our nation's history, belonging to a community is utterly essential. Though they may have begun with a central individual's passion or beliefs, each of the movements that I went over earlier consisted of more than one person, and rightfully so. Individually, our greatest hopes disappear into the ether of time. But together in numbers, we are more powerful, more capable, more brilliant, and more successful than we could ever imagine. Together, we are resilient. Our chalice extinguishing words are by James Galasimski. Our faith, like a light, illuminates the path before us so that we can face hurt with love, cultivate compassion, live humbly in community, and confront despair with the awe of life. Though our flame is extinguished, our faith shines bright before us.
Thank you for joining us today. Following service, those on Zoom are invited to continue the conversation, and those in the sanctuary invited to social time in Celebration Hall. We invite you to go to Celebration Hall soon, so it makes it easier for those on Zoom to hear each other. Next week, we welcome back our friend Bill Groves with a service titled Considering Reincarnation, including historical and personal reflections. Please rise in body or spirit. Those in the sanctuary may choose to hold hands. There we go. Terrific. We've got them all? All right. Everybody? Yay. Hooray. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and community is its goal. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. So may it be. Now turn, roomies, turn and wave goodbye to our Zoomies, and they will wave goodbye to us. Yay. Go in peace. The service has ended.